Our reading today is Psalm 14. Fools say in their hearts, "There is no God." They are corrupt, they do abominable deeds. There is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on humankind to see if there are any who are wise, who seek after God. They have all gone astray, they are all alike perverse. There is no one who does good, no, not one. They have no knowledge, all the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord. There they shall be in great terror, for God is with the company of the righteous. You would confound the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge. Oh, that deliverance from Israel would come from Zion. When the Lord restores the fortunes of his people, God will rejoice. Israel will be glad.
Several weeks ago, when the worship team needed my plan for sermons for the month, I went to my trusty lectionary website resource I use, and it suggested using Psalms, the Psalm passages for the month of September as the series. And so I read the synopsis. It sounded interesting, so I copied down which Psalms were designated for the next 4 weeks, sent them out as what I was preaching on, and then this past Monday, when I got out my sheet with a specific psalm for today and opened my Bible and read Psalm 14 and thought, Well, the polite version of what I thought was, well, shucks, I probably should have read this closely before I said I was going to preach on it. I didn't discover until this week that most lectionary resources, the ones that write commentary and give me ideas what to go with, most don't even include Psalm 14. They just skip right over it. And I even Googled, why do some lectionaries have Psalm 14 and others seem to have omitted it? The AI-generated response said, some have moved away from including this psalm because of its negative themes. It gives a bleak picture of human depravity that can be perceived as difficult or jarring for a worship setting. Well, and we all know I can't change my scripture verse the week of, right? I know. I also discovered this week that Psalm 14 is almost identical to Psalm 53. It's the only psalm that is duplicated, not Psalm 23, this Psalm 14 and Psalm 53. The psalm that says, they have all gone astray, they are all alike, perverse, there is no one who does good, no, not one. That's good preaching material, right? And then the events of the week unfolded, and I have to admit that my morale for showing up today went from bad to worse. And so I have to admit, I'm struggling. Our country isn't okay. Our democracy isn't okay. I'm not okay. And I don't know if y'all are feeling it too, but is anyone else not okay? And to be honest, I thought most of the week I don't really have anything else to say besides that. I have feelings of rage, of helplessness, of hopelessness, of sadness, but nothing coherent enough to say, and yet somehow I'm supposed to get up in front of people and preach. So I decided that I would start by writing my own version of Psalm 14, a September 14th, 2025 Carol Lee version. Because the energy of that psalm is a whole like the energy that I have felt this week. Because Psalm 14 is a psalm of lament, right? The psalm starts by saying, fools say in their hearts there is no God. But this isn't a psalm about atheists. First, there was no such concept when this was written. But what that line really means is this: a fool is one who is morally deficient, who does not live by the law of God, by the law of love. God looks down from heaven on humankind to see if there are any who are wise. God looks and sees crowds scattering in panic as bullets fly into schools, into rallies, into crowds, the tragedy of political violence. The veneration of a white Christian man that spewed hatred like wildfire, while school shootings go unnoticed. Assassinations in Minnesota go unnamed, unnoticed, unspoken. HCBUs, historically black college and universities, under lockdown for threats. Because apparently blackness is the problem even when white men are doing the shooting. From the highest offices of worldly power come declaration of hatreds for the left. Declarations of martyrdom for a man who said empathy was a made-up word that does a lot of damage. Who spoke openly about wanting a white Christian nation. God looks down and sees men in power covering up abuse, silencing survivors, protecting the corrupt, saying the call for transparency is a politically motivated hoax, all while still preaching about morality and flaunting their Christianity. God looks down and sees trans children told they cannot play, cannot live, cannot belong. Their very existence mocked and demonized in the halls of power. And they dare to say this is from you, God. Immigrant families thrown into detention, brown skin profiled, windows shattered. Parents dragged from cars by masked Christian men while the courts call it justice. The dismantling of systems that support the poor, the demonizing of public health, practices that protect the common good, the health of communities in the name of a God who cares about some more than others. Racism is becoming a badge of honor. Patriarchy is consolidating power in our institutions. Hatred is being normalized, celebrated even. The narrative of white Christian nationalism is being venerated. Algorithms are controlling and shaping the masses, profiting off of hatred and division. Capitalism is destroying the planet, and it may be too late to repair the damage. It seems there is no escaping. Let's take a breath together because lament is heavy. But God? But love is still here. But what about my heart that walks around outside my body and the little girl I put on the bus in the morning? Who gives me a heart sign out the window as I wave goodbye? And at night, the tiny hands reaching out to hold mine as they fall asleep. And their giggles, oh, their giggles. But what about the belonging that I feel in this space? The impromptu pizza gatherings on Friday evening, or learning about 6-7. But what about the peace I feel, singing hymns with friends and strangers over drinks where our voices tangling into something holy? And still the flowers that keep blooming in the spring that always comes. But what about the moments before sunrise when the stillness makes the dew on the grass glitter with possibility? And what about the sun setting on the mountains that make my heart sing every time? Even creation keeps preaching hope. But what about the ways that giving to others make me feel certain of my calling? And even when grief rips my heart open, I would still choose the love, still choose the life, still choose the time I was given. Yes, there is brokenness, but love is our refuge, but love is still worth it. And this is our hope, and hope will not let us go. To be honest, I cringe when I hear the phrase, our hope is in God, because too often it rings hollow like churchy filler words. Too often it conjures up the image of a light-skinned, blue-eyed Jesus. You know, the one with the shoulder-length brown hair hanging in old church buildings? Have y'all seen that picture? And we're supposed to somehow pin our hope to that person. But I confess I don't even know what that means sometimes. Especially lately, especially when that Jesus gets dressed up in the veneration of those who spew hatred at the immigrant and the poor, who disparage others as less than, who baptize racism and call it righteousness. That hope, that one wrapped in nationalism, weaponized by power, used to shame and exclude, that feels repulsive. But that's not the hope that I'm talking about. The hope I'm talking about is stubborn and tender, and it's born in lament and refuses to let go of love. This week, writing my own Psalm 14 showed me and reminded me that without lament, hope is just sentimental. Because lament is truth-telling. It's looking brokenness straight in the eye and refuses to pretend. Lament says this is not how things are meant to be, which is in itself an act of faith. naming that God's justice, God's love, God's shalom must be something more. Hope is not the opposite of lament. Hope is what rises through lament. With lament, hope becomes the most defiant thing we can say. Yes, the world is broken, but love is still here. We don't always make room for lament in church. We don't want to get too sad, too serious, too angry, too grief-stricken. But if we don't lament, we dishonor reality. And we leave people unequipped to make sense of all of this. And Psalm 14 gives us permission to tell the truth first and reminds us that telling the truth doesn't mean we aren't hopeful. It means that hope will rise from the ashes. And so when we lament together, when we bear one another's burdens, and we give each other permission to say, me too, I feel the rage, the helplessness, the sorrow, that shared honesty makes space for shared hope. And so that's what I want to invite us into. There's some pieces of paper on your table with some pins. We also have a stack somewhere if you are not sitting at a table and want one. And I want you to take a moment and think about or write down at least one, if not more, statement of lament, aka your anger, your grief, your despair, and a sentence also where you see love. And in the same way that we do talk back, although this isn't the season for talk back, but I invite you to share them aloud, or if they're not bubbling at the top and you need to think about them, or you don't want to say them out loud, you can write it down and you can either bring it to the altar or you can write it down and take it with you to keep working on it. But what I know is that lament it's not fully lament until we do it in community. And so I want y'all to participate in that. So if something bubbles to the top and you have something that you would like to share, I would invite you to.